Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Welcome, everyone. A couple of bits of business. Happy Valentine's Day, first of all. Susan Pinsky, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
The love of my life. And,
every day is Valentine's Day.
That's what I put in my note to her today, and that is true. That is true. And
I would say what I put in my note.
No. So she wins. Just so you know, Susan wins. In just a moment, I'll be welcoming my guest. That is a
different show.
Yeah, that's more after dark. You can join us there. But Damona Hoffman is a dating coach. She's been coaching singles on how to find love on and offline for over 15 years. Articles in the LA Times, Washington Post, regular contributor, Drew Barrymore Show, NPR, NBC's Access Daily. And she used to be a television executive, 18 years at NBC, CBS, Paramount, Discovery, A&E. We can share some of those war stories. Before I welcome the guest, though, Dan Baldwin, if you're still there in the clubhouse, I'd love to call you up to talk and congratulate you on your new project I've noticed you've been tweeting about in the country of Colombia. It sounds very exciting. And our interview with Heather McDonald has gone viral a bit, and I want to address a little bit of why it went viral. So I was observing, I've seen a lot of side effects from the booster, right? And I've been worried that perhaps something that caused Heather's syncopal episode, it's called, where she fainted and fractured her skull, something could be related to COVID or vaccine. Maybe she had POT syndrome, which is a sympathetic, autonomic dysfunction. I worried that she had some sort of cardiac muscle issue that caused arrhythmia. I've worried about that for Bob Saget. Now we know that he had cardiomegaly, which is a serious thing that everyone's missing. I don't know why that's not being discussed and where a guy that age came up with cardiomegaly, by the way, associated with rhythm disturbances, falling, sudden death, those sorts of things. But okay. And I said, in spite of all these side effects, I'm still very much in favor, of course, for sure, the 2 vaccine series. And for people at high risk, 65 and above, 75 and above, boostering. I've begun to talk to some of my elderly patients about getting ready. They may need a 4th vaccine, where the risk benefit is clearly in favor of vaccinating, in spite of these concerns about, how frequently are the side effects, what are the side effects. I mentioned in my interview with Heather that I have a friend who developed severe long COVID. He has trouble walking and he's short of breath and all this stuff. And I've seen that before. It is rare. Now, he is my age, and should he have gotten a booster at my age? I'm boostering my family. I'm certainly I'm discussing it with patients that they wish to booster. And this is the one thing I want you to know, is that we in medicine are always doing risky things, always, when the risk warrants it, when the risk of what we're trying to avoid is worse, or what we're trying to treat is worse. We use all kinds of medication that can kill you all the time. Tylenol can kill you if you take 8 tabs. You can, nothing we use is not dangerous, but nothing we deal with is not dangerous. So it's always a risk-reward analysis. And in my opinion, for sure in the elderly population, possibly my age, if you're younger and don't want to have to deal with Omicron because it's much milder when you've been boosted, okay, as long as people understand the risk. Now, to not discuss the risk and to hide it from people, that is disgusting and that's unethical. So I am discussing it. I have some concerns, and I'm still coming down on the side of the risk reward. I think in general, certainly elderly people definitely warrants it. And let me see if my buddy Daniel Baldwin came back on the screen here. Did not. Okay. So let me bring my guest in. After that was my little pitch. And Caleb, did you know that's one of the reasons it went viral? Because people were all excited that I said I have these side effects and I'm still recommending it. Perhaps I didn't explain it quite adequately as I'm doing now. Do you feel, Caleb, that I have adequately explained it to this point?
Yes, but they're still going to take their clips out of context and say
course.
what they want, of course. And those are the ones that are going to get the 500,000 views as opposed to the episode or the clips.
Well, and as always, what Susan and I
YouTube didn't can us, and we had 31,000 views.
Right, and what Susan and I have always have discovered in the last 2 years, it's never what I said that goes viral, ever. It's what somebody said I said, either by taking it out of context
the way they
or
interpreted it.
interpreting it and sort of twisting it in the tweet, whatever it is. It's never what I said. No one ever starts with, "Hey, would you clarify that? Make sure I heard you right." Ever.
I want to see who did it.
Gross, everybody.
Behind this.
Gross. All right, so
don't exploit him. Jesus.
Exploit who? Exploit me?
Yeah, it's like ridiculous.
All right, so
no, I mean, don't explain Dr. Drew. Just get a life. You know what I mean? Get your own life.
Maybe somebody can explain to me why that seems to be such fertile territory for people that I trigger that. And, you know, it seems. What do you think that is?
I gotta hit you off the apex of life. That's the way it goes.
Hit me off the apex of life. Explain that.
If you're at the top, it's easy. You know,
I don't think I'm at the top. I don't think that's it.
Well,
I don't think that's it.
Well, you were very clear. You didn't say it did happen. We don't have proof, but it's just it could be.
Like I would discuss with any patient, I would talk about risk reward, I would talk about my concerns, and then I would make my recommendation with input from the patient, you know, their sensibility, their risk tolerance, how aggressive they want to be or not aggressive they want to be. That's it. That's how you do medicine.
Well, I think that I think the new booster has to come out too and be up to date because like Dr. What's her name? The Gandhi. She said that the new boosters need to come out to take care of the new variants.
Yeah,
they're not going to work on the old one.
Yes, and it's still, as you know,
and maybe they'll also make sure they don't make them too strong.
So in our household, for instance, here's an interesting situation. So most of us had well, two of us, I guess, had COVID.
Right.
We also, us two, also got vaccinated. Mm-hmm. My son also got boosted.
I got boosted.
Right. You got
before
boosted,
I got COVID.
But one of us, Douglas, had a very nasty response to the mRNA vaccine. He was really like kind of concerned.
And then he had a really rough time with COVID.
Well, hold on. Then he didn't get boosted because of that fact. And then he had a really rough time with COVID. So what was the right decision there? I think probably get the COVID. It was Omicron for sure. And so he knew it was going to be severe. But had that been Delta, it might have been a more serious situation. So these are nuanced situations. They require a risk-reward judgment and a judgment call. And myself, I was contemplating getting boosted. And I thought to myself, probably the better immunity and the risk reward came down on the side of getting Omicron. I didn't seek it. I hadn't yet decided I wasn't going to get the booster, and then I got Omicron. So there you go. That's how that worked for me. All right, let us bring in our guest. It is
Jesus loves you, Drew.
No, Jesus loves Heather McDonald, right? And so
Jesus loves you, even the Jews.
That's what she was saying when she fell on her head and got a subdural hematoma. Let us bring in our guest, Damona Hoffman, celebrity dating coach. It is Valentine's Day, so we thought we would do something a little different. Not COVID,
but
even though I had to do it.
Thanks, Caleb, for bringing that up.
Well, look, I had to do it. I had to do a little COVID. I knew I was going to have to do it anyway because I saw Twitter going crazy about this. Oh. But let us bring in our guest, dating coach, Damona Hoffman. Damona, welcome to the program. There you are.
Thank you for having me. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's indeed. And I believe I will be on the 400th episode of your podcast coming up. Tell us about the podcast first.
Well, Dates and Mates. Yeah, I've been doing it 9 years, 400 episodes. I know that's peanuts to you, but for a lot of people,
that's a lot.
Modern love,
no.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But
it's a lot. It's a lot, and there's a lot of newcomers to the space, and I like veterans. I like people that took the leap early, because we're the ones that cut the course for everybody else. So well done.
Right, and I was an online dating early adopter as well. So a lot of what I talk about are all of these new tools and technologies that we have to both connect and then to form relationships and then to move offline and into the real world and have real relationships. So I love navigating people through that every day, not just Valentine's Day.
And Dates and Mates are available anywhere you get your podcasts?
Exactly. We're featured on
right,
on the Apple today. So
the Apple. How about that? The Apple.
The Apple.
The Apple. You sound like my grandfather. It's the Apple thing. So also, I'm sure it's on her website, Damona, Damona Hoffman.com, Instagram at Damona Hoffman, and Twitter at Damona Hoffman, Hoffman. So I'm interested in a lot of stuff as it pertains to relationships. These days, I find myself thinking a bit about the generational shifts, and I'm certain you're having to deal with this. You have to, if you're going to give advice to somebody, first thing you have to say is, how old are you? What's your dating history? What's your relationship history? Have you used online technologies? How have you done with that? And you're going to get different information and probably different experiences, depending on the age you're talking to. So tell me a little bit about how that would go when you talk to everybody.
Yeah. And as I said, I started online dating almost 20 years ago. It's how I met my husband. And so I've shepherded a lot of people through this process, and a lot of people who are in a age bracket where this technology maybe wasn't available. Maybe they're new to the dating scene and they were coming out of a relationship and they're like, what is this? What is this dating app? What sliding into the DMs? What is this? So I do see a big generational shift, and there's even a completely different way, particularly I would say among Gen Z daters and the way that they use dating apps, because they grew up just always having this sort of technology and communicating digitally. So it's a different kind of learning curve in that age bracket. I'm usually teaching more interpersonal communication skills, but with older daters, it's just getting them, first of all, to embrace the technology and realize that it's not this big bad Tinder swindler thing that you see out there, that it actually is a viable way to connect.
Well, just because you brought it up, the Tinder swindler, I just read an article. Let me see if I can grab it. I think I have it on my phone. And it's a headline I wanted to read to you. Shoot. Come on. There we go. Romance scams soar 80% in 2021. And it is sort of on my mind because I've been watching Inventing Anna. And she was clearly using her relationships to swindle everybody. $500 million stolen, big rise in 18 to 29-year-olds sending money to people they met online. Were you aware of this? Do you have to warn people? Go ahead. Have at it.
Yes. I talk about this on Dates and Mates quite a lot. So there are a couple of signs that someone that you're talking to is not who they say they are. And I think they're people that you meet online. They fall into different categories. Not everyone's going to be a match for you, but the actual percentage, even though they're saying that this romance scams are soaring, it's just because there's critical mass on the dating apps. This is where people are. It's not that there are more scam artists out there. It's just they're going to where the people are. So that percentage of scammers, even though it may be increased, I'm skeptical of those numbers. I'll have to check your receipts, Dr. Drew. But even if there
it was Facebook ran that one. Facebook just sent me that one. They knew I was thinking about you, and so they sent me that article, which is weird because that happens a lot. Where all of a sudden Facebook will read my mind. I find that uncanny, but okay.
Oh yeah, I've had that experience too. I don't know what Facebook's increase in scammers are, but I digress. On the dating apps, I'll tell you some of the key signs that somebody is a scammer, and not just a catfish. I think there's two categories. There are people that just aren't who they say they are. Maybe they're not confident in who they are. They don't feel like they could get a match with you, or maybe they're in a relationship and they don't intend to move offline. But if somebody is there to actually hurt you, take advantage of you, usually some of these signs that you see in the Tinder swindler will show up right away. They try to get you off of the app immediately. Like their communication moved directly from Tinder to WhatsApp, which I'm sure you've seen this, and some of your callers have probably mentioned that when on WhatsApp, they can't be tracked, and there's a lot of scammers that use WhatsApp when they are talking from another country or not where they say they are. So that immediately made my spidey senses go up. And then he wanted to meet right away. There was no screening process whatsoever. He just dropped a pin and was like, let's meet here at the Four Seasons. And then they met for like 20 minutes. And this isn't a spoiler, like for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, because this all happened right at the beginning of the documentary. Then within 20 minutes, he's saying, hey, I'm leaving the country tomorrow. Do you want to come on my private jet with me? And I know it sounds lovely. It sounds like a beautiful fantasy, but there just couldn't be anything more wrong than just meeting someone and having them immediately ask you to leave the country with them.
Well, that's the part I find kind of interesting, which is that sort of the more extraordinary the claim, the more people buy into it. You know what I mean? That's like oftentimes there's like no commonality, no match, and no evidence of what the person says they have. And this extraordinary claim is made, and boom, you go with it. That's the part that I find uncanny.
It's even worse though in the digital space because, I talk about all of these tools. Instagram itself is a dating app, and we can talk about that later. But he also very strategically linked his Instagram or had his same name very searchable on Instagram. And he had all of these very carefully curated photos of the lifestyle that he was trying to present. And it was too good to be true. So, I tell my clients, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But the number one rule, I'm sure you would agree with this, is don't give them money. Like, even if you feel that you know them, the primary woman in the documentary had only known this guy for a month, and she already had started giving him money and taking out loans in his name and getting credit cards with him. And that just, it just boggles my mind that people fall into this. But I know these people are professionals. He did this dozens of times, and he had a script. He was testing all along the way. All of those things I told you that were the red flags, those were actually tests. He was testing to see, is she going to allow me to take this communication offline? Is she going to come and meet me offline? Is she actually going to get on a plane? And now I see that she's a willing participant in this scheme that I'm unfolding.
Do they go so far as getting to an airport and things like that? I mean, how far do they take it? The ruse?
Oh yeah. He this guy was a class scammer act. I mean, he actually had people paying for his private jets to fly other women on the private jet so that they would believe him and give him more money to fly the next lady on a private jet. So this was a really carefully orchestrated scheme. But, overall, I find that most of my clients make connections on dating apps. It's just where critical mass is. It's where the most people are. It's where your best chance of expanding your dating pool is. And that's what it's all about, especially during the pandemic. This is the only way that many people had to connect. So I just want people to be aware of the signs, because you can get caught up very easily. He said all the things that she wanted to hear. And when that fantasy lines up with what you think is reality, it's very easy to get swept away into the fantasy.
Yeah, it's just market efficiency. This is just a more efficient way to meet than some of the other ways. So naturally, it's going to supersede other means. But have you watched Inventing Anna, this thing about the so-called German heiress who was just a scammer?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet. I know my friend Laverne Cox is in it, though.
Oh yeah, she's great, and she does. Jesus, she does all the stuff you're talking about here. She jets everything, and people, she finds little wrinkles in the system and slips through it. And was, certainly hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, scamming people all over the place. So, and then there was that other series, was it called Bad John or something? Did you see that
Dirty
series?
John. Yeah.
Dirty John. That's the same story, right?
Well, yes, but he was really dangerous. That was sort of next level.
Yeah.
But again, very quick, very quick courtship process, like, and immediately tried to separate the person from her loved ones. So then he became the person that she was bonded to, and then he started to make her mistrust. This is really classic manipulation. This is something that happens in relationships, even when it's not a scammer situation.
That's right.
So it's a big
that's right.
red flag to look out for.
Yeah, that's how domestic violence is perpetrated. That's everything, sort of the grooming and separating from the support system. Those are sort of the two sort of red flags that people have got to be really, really careful about. So Instagram as a dating app, is that, tell me about that. And is that more or less treacherous?
Considering I'm an online dating fan, I guess I have to say it's more treacherous. I mean, the difference is that not everybody is there with the purpose of dating. So whether someone is available to date on a dating app or not, on Instagram, you don't know. So I just find it's less efficient, because you may be sliding into the DMs, sliding into the DMs, going down in the DMs.
Yeah. Right.
Even if you make a connection, you have no idea what their real relationship status is. And so it requires a lot more digging to figure it out. But hey, it does happen. Like, I had Nick Viall from The Bachelor on my podcast. He met his girlfriend, not on The Bachelor, but in the DMs. And she messaged him. That's another thing that I'm seeing a big shift in, Dr. Drew. Gender roles. I love talking about that. I've been a big fan for a long time of women taking initiative. I say take control of your dating destiny. And I find, particularly with my more mature daters, they have this attachment to chivalry and who makes the first move and who pays for what and how the relationship is going to unfold, that I find sometimes gets in their way of actually being able to make a connection. And especially with the dating apps, because it's the technology.
So that's
it doesn't have feelings.
Yeah. So that's actually a little complicated. So I completely agree with you. Men have zero, well, it's a very small minority of men who have an issue with women asking them out. I mean, men, our fundamental position is lazy. So if you want to do the work, good. We're all about it. And so you letting us know, I mean, that is like bonus, happy, fine, do that, please. So it's weird that there's so much resistance to it, because it's not really from men. It's a small minority, in my experience, that resist that. But women, they have I've also noticed that some women, again, not everybody, and certainly older for sure, have it's sort of like a screening process. Like, they have to know that the guy's super interested. Somehow that's, they got to know that you're pursuing as just getting through their screening. That if you have to be really interested in me before I'm going to sort of give you a chance. What about that screening process? What do you hear about that? And how do younger people compensate for not doing that?
Well, I'm a big fan of the screening process in general. That is one of my steps that I take my clients through in my program. But I will say, I think the way that I screen is different than what you're talking about. And I think you're right in what you're observing. There is a misunderstanding of what you should be screening for. And there is this feeling of like, I want to be chased, but not that much. There's this dance that's being done, and it just
it is super confusing for men when they go, I want you to do that, but not really. That men our heads, it spins. We don't understand. You got to be really clear.
I know. I'm married.
Wait, Susan, help us with this. Yeah. So I'm going to ask my wife about this.
Just tell me, what do you want me to do?
So we were just talking about how women like to be sort of pursued, aggressed. Oh, you're feeding back. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I wonder if you have an opinion about that. That do women use that as sort of a screening process? Is it a separate reward system for women of a certain age? Or why not be the person that asks somebody out? and why wait to be pursued?
I don't have that problem.
I understand, but you may have an opinion about people that do.
But
like
I
to be
do
pursued.
get that. I mean, women
you said that in the past when your testosterone was lower, you like to be pursued.
No. I mean, I did, but I also didn't feel bad asking, like, why haven't you called? Like, you know. But I was thinking about how women get pursued and then they have sex with a man and then the man just disappears. It's like all the chase is over with. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. She likes to have like 6 proper dates before she'll have sex with him, right? So she wants to get to know the person and everything. And I'm like, wow, I mean, number 7 has to be sex then, you know, if they come along. But then unfortunately, sometimes after the guy has sex, that's it. They don't continue to pursue. That's where I get, I mean,
all right. So
I'm not really answering your question because I'm not really sure.
I have a follow on to that. Is that more hurtful? You know, because she's now invested a little bit in him, and he hasn't.
Well, I think I don't know. I'm talking about people who have been divorced.
I understand. You're talking about mature people. Let's hear what Damona says.
I would say it can be more hurtful, but again, if you're screening for the right things, it's a process of screening. I try to take my clients out of the emotion of it. This is the process. You're getting to know someone, and look, you know, you're divorced and you haven't gotten it in a while. maybe that was what you needed, and your pursuit of the relationship sort of clouded your true interest in what this relationship was about.
Or at least.
Well, that's usually how the guy thinks,
right?
Because the girl wants to be cuddled, and the guy just wants to have a pretty face and have sex. So, and someone who'll do the dishes. Remember that thing? It was like the men's needs. It said men's needs, where you know they wanted, you know, someone who looks good and who.
There was there was a study that looked at, you know, priorities and what men were looking for versus women were looking for, and they could not have been more different, as you might imagine.
Yeah, women are like, they're more emotional and they want to be cuddled and hang out, and then the guys are just like, well, I don't know.
But I did read a study that said when men do the dishes, they actually have more sex. So hot tip for the guys on Valentine's Day.
That's why Drew has sex all the time.
Right.
Because he does the dishes.
Right. And they've done a similar thing with similar studies with taking the trash out and with fixing things. It's all kind of in the same zone.
Yeah, taking the trash out doesn't do it for me.
So
foot rubs and dishes.
Foot rubs and dishes. Duly noted.
I'm with you, Susan.
Don't stop.
So Damona, go back to the gender stuff. What is it that you're seeing there, and what do you like talking about in that space?
Well, in terms of dating apps, I think people they're placing additional pressure on the app that the app is not really capable of delivering on. And what I love to teach people how to do is to really program the algorithm to work for them. It is a piece of technology. So if you are just sitting around waiting for messages to land in your inbox, and you stop checking your app because you haven't gotten any notifications, or you don't like the people when you get the notifications, so then you check the dating app less, and then you get suppressed further in the algorithm. So you are being shown to fewer people, and therefore you are getting fewer matches. And then you listen to the Dates and Mates podcast, and you come to Damona and you say, well, I don't like online dating because I never get any matches, or I don't like any of the people that the app sends to me. It's because you haven't programmed the app to work for you. You need to be matching regularly. You need to be logging in every day. You need to be sending messages, initiating contact with the kind of people you like. And then the app will say, oh, we understand she likes this type of person. We'll send her more of those people. We'll put her in the feed when someone like that is swiping through, and show her to him. And maybe we can make a match, because ultimately they want people to move offline. They want people to make a connection and tell their friends and have a great success story. I think there's some misconceptions out there that dating apps want you to stay on the app because that's how they make their money. And it really couldn't be further from the truth. They wanted it to work.
So their business model is through reputation, through success. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean,
Yeah.
if your app never makes any matches, what kind of app are you doing? Like,
Exactly.
I'm really good at
time.
tech stuff, but I've never done an app because I've been married the whole time the apps have been out. So I wish I had it when I was in the dating scene, because in the old days you had to like go to a bar and meet the worst people. But
Exactly, you can meet the
I
worst
got
people
lucky.
online now. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But it is
right.
a lot less
Yeah,
effort.
but I mean,
And then you can
Yeah.
be in 2 bars at once.
no, but I mean, I wish I could test one of these out and see what you're talking about, because I've always been really curious about it. My friends use them, and I'm always like trying to help them, whenever on their phone or whatever. But my daughter actually, has had success with the dating apps, even though their relationship didn't work out. But I don't know if she'll do it again. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
Well,
my son really needs to get on an app, because he hasn't had a girlfriend in a long
Because
time.
of COVID, which is the other issue, how COVID is,
But they're 29. They need to get on the app.
Yeah, but COVID has put a big, interesting block in people's social lives, don't you think?
Yeah, which app do you give to an intellectual 29-year-old guy who's, been locked in a pool house for 2 years?
Jesus.
That's what it feels like. He's super cool. He's a
I know
cool
the
kid.
feeling.
It's just Pasadena is not like the place you can go out and meet women either. Unfortunately, it's kind of a
True.
snoozy
for where you go
town
after
here.
you met. Yeah, when you met the woman.
Yeah.
Full disclosure,
where
I
you wanna
do
have
work
kids.
with OkCupid. So I love OkCupid. But beyond that, I say just find the app that works best for you. And I really have my clients test it out. Like, which one has a pool of matches that you actually like? Which one do you enjoy using? Because if every time you open your app, you're like, oh, this thing again, you're not going to put your best foot forward. You're not going to enjoy doing it. You're not going to log in regularly, like I was talking about. And you really also need to see which matches you're getting. Like, are you having success on the app? Like Susan, I've been in the game for a long time, but I met my husband online 18 years ago. So I was there at the beginning of online dating, all the way up through shepherding clients through the online dating of today. And back then I had it down on one app. I was going out all the time. I was meeting lots of interesting matches. And then I switched to this other app and I got zero. And when I say zero, I mean, I got nothing. I was sending out messages. I was being really proactive. No one wrote me back. And then I got a random message in my inbox from this guy who I took one look at his profile and I was like, that's the guy. Oh my gosh, this is the guy. When can I meet? And I threw all my rules out the window and I met him without doing my full screening. I did ask him to call me to make sure that, so I can make sure that he wasn't a psychopath, which I don't know what a psychopath sounds like on the phone, but apparently he passed the test. And that guy's my husband. And we have our 15th anniversary coming up in April.
Wow.
So, it's, I think we have to be careful about the narratives that we place on dating and relationships, because, I could have said that this app sucked or that online dating didn't work because I had all of these dates that didn't end up going anywhere. But you have to remember, if you're looking for a monogamous relationship, it only takes one. It only takes one match. So in the end, that app ended up working out for me.
Well, and I like the idea of like just being on an app so you can go out and like meet somebody interesting or new, even if it's not going to be your soulmate. Like, at least just get out of the house and go have a drink or a cup of coffee and just chat for 10 minutes with another human being, and then if it doesn't work out,
Susan,
it doesn't
you could be on Bumble BFF. They have a friends section if you want to just make connections. So so you could kind of dip your toe into the online dating app waters.
That sounds cute. Bumble BFF.
Okay,
that's cute. Yeah.
We'll see.
He won't like
He said no.
Caleb has a question. Go ahead, Caleb. Why don't you ask that question?
Friends, though. That'll be my.
Sorry, my voice is a little sick right now. So I'm just curious about that app Raya that I hear about. So I also didn't get any dating apps at all because they came out like 6 months after I met my future wife, and we've been together since then. So I don't even know which way you swipe, left or right. But I heard about this app called Raya that's a very exclusive, it's an invite-only app. So do you think that singles should try to get listed on apps like Raya, or does that really limit their dating pool by too much?
Oh, you're giving me the challenging questions because I think you should be on the app that works for you. I will say Raya is known as the celebrity dating app. A lot of my celebrity clients are on it. I'm the resident dating expert of the Drew Barrymore Show. After years of Drew saying, I hate dating apps, I got stood up one time and I'm never going on it again. I finally got her to go on again. And she ended up having a great date with somebody that she met on Raya. That said, a lot of people find when they get to Raya that it's a lot of see and be seen because it is so hard to get accepted into. You have to give them your Instagram. You have to be fabulous. And there are really celebrities there. I mean, Drew's really there. And a lot of other celebs are really looking for love there. But I find that just maybe it's the celebrity lifestyle. A lot of times my clients will send out messages and then they don't end up getting messages back. So you try it. I have a client that just got married a couple years ago and is having a baby now from meeting somebody on Raya. So you never know.
That's so cool.
How do you know you're out there too much with the dating apps? Is there a sign? Yeah, what does that look like?
I will say prior to COVID, there was a real feeling of burnout. I actually was doing episodes about like how to beat dating burnout all the time. And that was because one of the biggest things that online dating did was it changed the speed of dating. So as Susan was saying earlier, before when you had to put on your heels and get your makeup on and schlep yourself out to the bar, it took a lot of effort. There was a high barrier for entry. If you wanted to date, you really had to literally put yourself out there. And now with a couple of keypad clicks, you can be online and you can start talking to people right away. And most of the apps are free to join. So now so many more people are connecting and there's so much communication because once you swipe, whether it's left or right, it changes, Caleb, depending on the app that you're on, the technology. But once you connect, then you move into
Just
the
learned
chat.
something.
Yeah, well, you go into the chat. I might blow your mind again because that's a whole new phase of dating. This messaging to move forward into whether it's the video chat date or the offline date. There is an additional step. So I used to say texting is for information and not conversation. But in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, since Tinder really became popular and really increased the speed of even online dating even further, I've seen that is a skill set that I have to help people develop in how to message and be cute and clever and reveal enough to get to the date, but not reveal too much because you don't want them to see all your baggage right there up front. So that has been a big shift. And now people they were super burned out before the pandemic because they're sending, in between all of these dates that they're having, they're sending 20, 30 messages. That's exhausting to me. So the pandemic did kind of slow that down, but I don't know what's going to happen as we start to move back out of lockdown.
And then also, finding somebody on a dating app that you're involved with. I feel like that's another wrinkle in the phenomenon of dating apps.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I do get a lot of questions too of like, when do we take our profiles down? Now we've connected and I feel like we're exclusive. And the pandemic really threw a wrench in this because normally, I'm curious what you think about this, Dr. Drew. Normally, I would see with my clients within about 10 weeks, they would start to declare their relationship. They would have the talk and decide to be exclusive or decide to see other people. But because of the pandemic, people started having exclusivity conversations really early because it was like, even before we've met, I need to make sure, are you seeing other people? And are you masking around them? Are you making out with anybody else? Because now it's a risk just to have a relationship. Do you feel like that has changed the speed of relationships, the pandemic?
Well, I feel like the COVID risk is part of it, but it's also, I don't, this sounds so pejorative, but it's what I call hostage taking. Everyone's feeling lonely and alone, and you grab somebody and, take a life preserver. And I've seen more of that than anything else. It's not even COVID, because people are already out there dating. I mean, their COVID concerns aren't that great, and they have ways of managing that. But they're also like, this has not been a happy time. And in particular, as it pertains to connecting with other people.
Yeah. And we really saw in the first, I would say 6 months of the pandemic, maybe a year, there was a lot of this pandemic coupling off, and then a lot of breakups happening in the second year of the pandemic. I can't believe we're still here having these conversations, but here we still are.
Yeah.
And I had predicted that we were going to see a lot of pandemic divorces, just because, I was looking ahead to Wuhan, and when they came out of their first lockdown, there was a huge spike in people filing for divorce. But in the United States, it really was delayed. And from the stats I'm seeing right now, it's finally starting to happen. And the crush of just being locked down with someone and being in all of these waves and all the anxiety and the pressures and the financial insecurity has finally become too much for a lot of relationships that were sort of on the bubble to pull through. We're having such a positive conversation for Valentine's Day.
Well, it's all right. It's sort of my thing. And so, but I was just going to say though, that phenomenon, if relationships are weak, and it's almost like a business that is weak and gets washed out by market forces,
kind of like what's happening to the car industry.
Yeah, it may not be strictly speaking a bad thing. It's like,
I was just thinking,
the relationship, it
since
doesn't
it's
work,
Valentine's Day,
that.
I was just thinking how much I hated Valentine's Day when I was dating, when I was in my 20s. And it was just like always such a letdown. Like you'd think, okay, Valentine's Day is coming. And then your boyfriend wouldn't call. And you'd be like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? And I would love to, I'd love to hear if any of the people on the Clubhouse have any good stories. But I was just always miserable. Like it was always such a big setup for such a huge disaster, no matter what. And like now, like Drew and I really don't celebrate Valentine's Day because he worked for like 15 years and he was always out of town, and I didn't really make a big deal of it. But I've kind of learned that there's so much pressure by the woman putting it on the man to be like something that they don't even understand they can do.
We don't understand it.
Yeah, or they don't get it. It's like, oh yeah, it was Valentine's Day yesterday. Shoot, I'm so sorry, but I was working or I was having fun with my friends and I really didn't care. But I find it, dating is a lot like that too, but Valentine's Day just
amplifies it.
Yeah. Just puts the microscope on how, horrible we are at celebrating love. Like, I mean, Drew buys me flowers every year, and he would buy me these really expensive roses. And I was like, don't buy those because they die the next day. I don't want to have $100 worth of roses in my house that are going to die. And then now he knows, like it took like 12 or 6 tries before.
You used to insist.
See, I need your advice though.
Okay.
I need your advice because I told my husband, I was not a flowers person either, really, Susan. I had the same thought, like, why get this thing that's going to die in not a day necessarily. That's very fast. But I ended up telling my husband long ago, I didn't really like flowers. But now it's been 15 years we've been married, and I'm like, oh, it would be nice to get some flowers, a candy, and chocolate.
Do you know how confusing that is for your husband? It's so confusing to your husband. You have no freaking
Yeah, you change your mind.
We have no idea what's going on. You can change your mind, but we don't know it. We can't magically know that you've gone from not wanting to see dying flower, seeing them. We don't know. We're not minded.
I would much rather he did the dishes.
He didn't. Yeah.
Well, you can make that clear too. We are really simple. We need info.
I got flowers this week from Drew, but they weren't the $100 long stem red, 12 roses. But I don't know why they die so fast during Valentine's Day, because I think they just have to sell so many of them. They take some of the roses and they put like wires in them just because they fall over so fast. So
we should talk about this on After Dark, but seriously, you used to traumatize me with Valentine's Day.
I know.
It's like, prove it to me that you can do this right. And that was every year. I was like, I had a panic attack for 3 weeks going into it. And
jewelry.
I'm so glad to see your testosterone levels to have been elevated, and you've dropped it pretty much.
No, I mean, it isn't as much of a big deal now as it was, I guess, then. I can't remember. I don't remember being like that.
Oh. Every year, it was so anxiety provoking, and it was never right, never enough, never did it right. It just was so confusing. And I felt like I was being set up every year. And I know a lot of men feel that way.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, you've convinced me. I'm going to talk to my husband.
Yes, please. We aim to please. We aim to please. We really want to please, but we can't. We're not magic. We're not magicians. We are simple male brains.
Men are really easy. They just want to have like sex and that's it.
Yeah,
they're good.
They were good. Yeah, very simple.
And it's like, and if you start early enough in the day, you're in good shape for the rest of the day.
So let's take a little break. When we get back,
my advice.
Well, this is good. We'll bring this all back on After Dark, I think, when we get out to Austin.
Oh, come on! It's Valentine's Day.
I understand, but let me just say that when we come back, we're going to take some calls, and I also want you to go through. We haven't really gone through your screening procedures, what it is you recommend for screening, or do you do that here, or do you want people to go to your website? All right, so we'll hold on.
We can do it,
and we'll take a little break. Okay, so we'll take a little break. Be right back. Since the beginning of the pandemic, nearly 1 in 5 Americans has reported consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol. Could be you, but only 10% of them are actually getting the help they need. Reframe is a neuroscience-based smartphone app that helps users cut back or quit drinking alcohol altogether. Using evidence-based tools, techniques, and content, Reframe guides users through a personalized program to help them reach their goals. Comprised of daily tasks, a comprehensive toolkit, a community forum, and accountability guides, Reframe is a modern, accessible, and affordable resource that can help anyone looking to reevaluate their relationship with alcohol. Reframe is backed by Harvard University and Emory University Schools of Medicine, and it is ranked the #1 alcohol reduction smartphone app worldwide with over 350,000 downloads. With Reframe, there's no stigma, just science, no labels, just support. To learn more, go to joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Use the code Dr. Drew for 25% off your first month or your annual subscription. That's at joinreframeapp.com/Dr. Drew. Let's talk about our friends at Hydralyte. I can't say enough about Hydralyte. You hear me talk about them all the time. It gets me through workouts and medical procedures and colonoscopies and COVID. It absolutely contributed to my recovery from COVID. Hydration is key to feeling healthy, and there's never been a time when that could be more important. We're in the height of cold flu season. Every headache has got you testing for COVID. Staying hydrated can keep the questionable symptoms at bay, and there's nothing better than Hydralyte to get it done. Taking their hydration formula one step further, now there is Hydralyte Plus Immunity. It starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of great ingredients. Plus, each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Hydralyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water to make a great-tasting drink that has a 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all-natural flavors. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and even vegan. Hydralyte Plus Immunity is also now available in ready-to-drink bottles at the Walmart next to the pharmacy, or as always, you can find it by visiting hydralyte.com/Dr. Drew. That is HYDRALYTE.com/Dr. Drew. And be sure to use that code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount. We are here with Damona Hoffman, dating expert. Her website is damonahoffman.com, DamonaHoffman, and Instagram at Damona Hoffman, and Twitter at Damona Hoffman. I'm trying to get somebody up to the podium here who wanted to ask a question. Those of you on Clubhouse, you're welcome to raise your hand. And if you come up to the podium, you'll be streaming on multiple platforms and are agreeing to do so by virtue of raising your hand. So that individual does not appear to be coming.
Need some single
up
ladies.
here. Yeah.
Miserable single ladies.
How dare you? How dare you? But let's talk about these screening procedures that you recommend.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about the screening procedures. Yeah.
I'm ready. There's two elements to the screening that have to happen. First is before you even get to the screening, you have to get clarity. So that's where I start my programs. The foundation is always clarity on who you are, what you're looking for, and really, I drill down to the two biggest predictors of long-term compatibility that I see are common goals for the future and then shared values, which are really hard to articulate in a dating profile. But when you get to the deeper level yourself of understanding what you believe and why you believe it, it's a lot easier to screen for that when you start talking to someone. So that's the first part of the screening. And then there's the technical part of screening, which is, this is game changer for most of my clients. And something that's really picked up steam over COVID is you have to do some sort of a screening call, video chat, some sort of step between you've matched on the app and you've met in person. And that was what was causing a lot of dating burnout before, is that people were just on hyperspeed and then going right to the date, and the person didn't match their values or goals. The person was a disappointment. They weren't as clever as they were in their text. They just were exhausted and didn't even understand why they were on the date because they hadn't done any of the screening processes before that. It's that simple.
Interesting. I want to drill into goals and values a little bit, though. It's what we used to call scripts, to make sure people's scripts need to match a little bit. But so often people's goals and values, they think they have certain goals and values, and that is what we call in the addiction field stinking thinking very often. It's a very superficial, analytic, up in your head analysis of what your goals and values should be usually. And your attraction systems and your motivational systems often are operating beneath that, and people aren't aware of it. And so it pushes them in a different direction that is away from, there's Susie. I'll bring her up here in just a second, which are away from their stated goals and values. Do you see a lot of that?
I do, but I sort of classify it differently. There's the list of this is what I think I need, and I usually end up throwing out the list. And I do a lot of exercises in my program that gets to that deeper level that you were talking about, of really who am I? How do I live my life? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We could say he's got to be 6 feet and make 150,000.
Well, but for instance, just a typical one I see all the time is, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want a white picket fence, and they get involved with somebody and they go, marriage is just a piece of paper, I don't really care about that. Like, how did you go from one to the other just because the guy's an asshole, essentially? And it's like, where did that, or he's taking too long, or whatever it is, they'll just boom, like one to the other, one's, one extreme to the other. And it's really important to get honest with yourself and clarity. As you said, if you want to get married, don't in 6 months into a relationship that's kind of disappointing you go, marriage is just a piece of paper, it's nothing I want. That's not your thoughts. That's a thought that you're having because you're in a shitty relationship.
Right. Well, and it goes back to what I was saying before the break, like storytelling. We love the fairy tales. We love the rom-coms. We tell our brains are conditioned to continue to tell a complete story. So we might get information that doesn't align with the goals and values and the works that you've done at the beginning of the process, but then you start changing what you thought you wanted to fit what's in front of you.
Right.
And that's when I usually get the messages from Dates and Mates listeners that say, I I don't know how I ended up here, but I'm in this relationship and
Yeah.
this person doesn't want, like,
That's right.
not wanting to get married or have kids. That's like that's a core belief. That is something I've seen a lot of relationships end over. And if you're not aligned in that way, it's not your person.
You
It's
got to be
not the
clear.
one.
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
clarity part. That's the clarity
Right.
piece. So yeah, and when I'm on your podcast, we'll get more into the picking process and how people get in those bad things
Yeah.
over and over again. Let's
Yes.
bring Susie is muted. Now she's not muted. There you are. You're on with Damona. Go ahead, Susie.
Hi, Dr. Drew. Happy Valentine's Day to you and Susan.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan. Been listening to you for a very long time. Thank you for all of your wisdom.
Okay, you bet. Happily.
Thanks. Damona, happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you.
I like your friend who went on 6 dates. Your friend who went on 6 dates before she would sleep with her future whoever. I did that with my now ex-husband. It worked. I'll give it that. But as yeah, exactly. But I've also done what you were just talking about, Dr. Drew. I've also, sort of curbed my own values to meet the needs of whatever, the guy was saying. Maybe I didn't really want to get married so quickly or have children or whatever it might have been. So, you end up with the wrong guy that way if you're not clear about who you are.
You are right. You are so right. Damona, go ahead. I'll let you sort of hand this off to you, because this is really it's a important issue, and it makes me sad to think how many people do compromise their desires and beliefs. Their core values, as you say.
True. I would love to reframe this a little bit for you, Susie, though, because you said you did the thing, the six dates thing, and then you did end up in a relationship. And even though you're not still in that relationship, I really look at all of our relationships as learning opportunities, a chance to learn more about ourselves and get clarity. Like Dr. Drew was just saying, get more clarity on what we need the next time. So if you can reframe that in your mind a little bit more and really figure out where you were not aligned and what you would need in your next relationship to feel the way that you want to feel. I really try to get my clients into the feeling of the relationship, because you might not see it on the surface. You might not see it when you swipe, but you definitely will recognize the feeling when it's repeated and when you're sitting across from someone that's going to make you feel the way that you deserve to feel and be treated.
So that is a deeply important sort of notion. I always talk about it in the context of our bodies being a perfect instrument, in that if you have a pattern, that pattern is coming from feelings and motivational states. And if you keep making the wrong choices or the right, whatever it might be, that's the stuff that's putting you there. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to keep making incorrect choices, because those are what creates attractions people rarely talk about. And attraction is not necessarily, it can be, but it's not necessarily the healthiest part of us expressing itself.
I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Drew, about the attraction piece of it. And I come from a history of abuse in my home. And so I was seeking somebody who showed me love the way I learned it from my mother, which was not a healthy love, not a true love. And I ended up actually the same person that I referred to that I did marry and soon after divorced. I did have a lot of anxiety. I had panic attacks to the point where I had paresthesia, and I was completely bedbound at times with this. Awful. Yeah, it was awful. And my sister and my rabbi all said to me, if you want to back out, it's okay. You can change your minds. And I was like, nope, have to do this.
Well, this is before the wedding. I really thought before the wedding.
My body was screaming at me, and I didn't want to listen.
That is another thing that I hear. I'm sure, Damona, you hear all the time too, which is people, up to the altar or at the altar wanting to run away and feeling horrible. And it's like, yeah, you should listen to that. I had the exact, I don't know, Susan, how'd you feel? Did you want to run away?
No, I waited 7 years.
But you were happy up there.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay. I want, that's this place I wanted to be Period. That was the it was
I
the
was-
weird. I actually had disdain or weird sadness for anybody who wasn't experiencing the feeling of this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
When I looked into your eyes,
Yeah.
you just had this look in your eyes, and I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't. You just looked you were so focused on me. But the funny part was, you know how you videotape your wedding and you want it to be like a fairy tale, wedding or whatever. Looking at you, I just started bawling. So I looked like a complete idiot up there. I was like, whoa. I was like so
There's something in
happy that we finally got married and it was happening and you were going to actually do it because you made me wait 7 years. So, but I honestly, I was 100% good with it.
Okay. Because when I occasionally do little wedding ceremonies, and that's what I always ask them. Like, how are your feet? Are they warm? Good. Excellent. That's where you start. Let's start with not having cold feet. And Susie, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I certainly understand it. But so you're talking about the zone of sort of love addiction and codependency and all that stuff. Have you had any treatment for that?
Thank you. Yes, I've been in therapy most of my life. I'm now love avoidant.
Oh, well, that's how it goes, right? That's how it goes. But your primary thing, I suspect, yeah, it's that cycle. And PMLity, again, I recommend her books. But it is, the fact that you felt so necessary to please everybody else to get married and stuff, that's really the codependency part. And I have a feeling it's just, stay with it. Stay with it. Damona, what do you say?
I 100% agree. And that's that feeling that I was talking about. Like you felt it in your body, Susie, when you knew it wasn't right. And I'm sure you felt it many times throughout the relationship, but you got out. So, and you're here. So, take that.
Right.
Everything
That's the great news. Yes. Yes.
Run with it.
That's right. That's right. And so, that's not a failure. It's almost like anything else you do in your life, right? I mean, if you learn from your mistakes are almost too strong a word, from your experiences, good. That's the best thing that could happen. I'm sorry that things didn't work out. It's never great that things don't work out, but these are opportunities to learn and not think about things as failure. What's that, Susan? I hear you grunting back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dated a lot of toads before Dr. Drew. I could have been married to one of those guys too.
You.
I know. I know.
But it's going through that made you appreciate what you have, right?
It really did.
Something like that.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. I mean, because I waited because he wasn't ready to get married.
No, I wasn't.
He was
I knew
very
I
young.
wasn't. I just wasn't. I wouldn't have had that same experience at the altar 3 years earlier.
No, I was pushing it after like 3 years into the relationship, and then we broke up for like.
And by the way, it would not have had nothing to do with you. It was everything about me. I just was a screwball. I was young. I just didn't know what.
No,
which end was up.
we were 24 when we met.
Yeah,
or 23.
It's really important that people realize, you got to be it's not just who you're with. It's are you developed enough to be able to do this stuff.
Yeah, you were also working a lot.
Oh, I was.
Had plans.
I just.
Well, I was really glad you came back after our breakup.
Yes, me too.
And I did everything in my power to be supportive.
Happy Valentine's Day.
It was good.
How you put up with the 10 years of workaholism, though, I didn't want to know. But thank
you know what? I knew going into it how you were. Like, I knew that I couldn't change the nimwits that I was with before. So
the nimwits taught you that. That's good.
I learned that. I learned that. But because I tried to change them, I tried to save them or whatever, and
you were like Susie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when I was with you, I said, you know what? This guy's going to work a lot, which is okay. I like being alone a lot. He's, you had all your virtues, but I understood that.
And it settled down. It took about 15 years.
I just made sure I was always competent on my own. Like I guess I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
A lot of women are really needy and they have to have their husband around all the time. I would prefer you go to work.
It's still, I really am sort of grateful that you put up with all that because I did kind of need to do that in a weird way in my own journey. And it was
turned out fine.
It did. I know it was excessive though. And it turned out great. And I'm glad I did it because I had this rich experience in medicine. but woo, was that nutty. Anyway, so yeah, I would get up at 5 in the morning.
25 years old.
I know. I would get up at 5 in the morning, and I struggled to get home by 10 o'clock at night. That was every day. And yeah, it was craziness. But all right. So Ramona, I think I'm going to wrap this up. We're going to be on your pod imminently, and I don't want to leave too much on the
400th episode.
Yeah, I don't want to leave too much on the table here.
That's a good number.
It is a good
That's
number.
a good number. I'm very impressed by that. Congratulations.
Dates and mates. I love that
Thank
picture.
you.
Damona Hoffman. Get it. And the Damona Hoffman is at Damona Hoffman, DamonaHoffman.com. It's all her name.
I want to get my kids on your proto. Over there.
Yeah. And you actually do coaching and consulting, right? You actually can be an individual coach, right?
I do. Well, yeah, I have group programs.
Yeah.
I have the Dating Accelerator program, and then I have all kinds of online tutorials and trainings, and I have programs to meet people wherever they're at in dating. So that's all at DamonaHoffman.com or datesandmates.com, where people can also hear you on the 400th episode. So excited.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah. And we will do that.
We are honored to have Dr. Drew on that.
Yeah. Appreciate it. And I'm going to
Thank you, Lindsay.
I'm going to let you go, Damona, and I'll see you in a few minutes when we do our pod with you. Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Damona Hoffman, everybody. I was late to the restream today, so I didn't see what you guys had said about my opening.
What's funny about Valentine's Day?
What is?
It's always depressing. Like you guys
Not today.
No.
Today it's fine.
It's
surprisingly you don't set expectations.
You've had a beautiful Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we just focus on each other and you don't set expectations.
Right, but you weren't.
What better can it be than that?
Listen, nobody felt left out today. But I'm talking about in general, like when you talk about love and relationships on Valentine's Day, it always goes into that serious territory.
Of course.
Because
of course.
It's the percentage of people that are happy is so low. You know,
it shouldn't be like that.
It's really sad. It's really sad. But that's because we have a day called Valentine's Day. We're putting all this pressure on this. And I don't know. I just think it doesn't need to be such a big deal.
Well, it's a commercial thing. Let's face it. It's for the flower company.
Right.
It's for the jewelry company. It's for the restaurants. It is a commercial enterprise. The only thing it misses from the other commercially enterprised holidays is some sort of religious connection. That's
right.
Otherwise, it is the same as all.
I mean, it's fun. It can be fun, and whatever. If you're single, you might want to go out and try to meet somebody. I don't know, have fun with the night. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I never really liked it. So
well, all right.
And then I married the love doctor, and the next thing you know, you're traveling.
On Valentine's Day.
You were making a shit ton of money though, so that actually made me happy.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to admit that out loud.
Excellent. Caleb, any questions for you before we wrap this up?
I just think it's
this is why people like this is why people like After Dark. Susan comes on After Dark and just says shit.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I do think that it's funny that every single year my wife says, "Don't get me anything for Valentine's Day. We're not going to buy anything for each other." Yeah. Every single year we wake up and we have each placed chocolates on the side of the bed for each other because we just know that's a total lie.
That's
just
fine.
buy some chocolates.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at least you're not having to go out and, buy a car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She has no interest in going out.
You're just saying, you're acknowledging. Yeah, you're acknowledging the person. I think that's a good thing. I have no problem with that. Thinking about the person, acknowledging them, thanking them. No problem with that. Somebody's asking me what my thoughts are on Trisha Paytas's mental health. We had her on here. We discussed it in detail. I was on her podcast back when she was up with Ethan on Frenemies. And I saw a tweet today, Caleb. I don't know if you saw that Trisha put out. Did you see her tweet?
I did. It was trending.
Is that real?
Above everything. Oh, yes. She's pregnant. I was so excited. I'm so happy for her.
So that's what she tweeted. She is pregnant. We are now that you've acknowledged, you've confirmed to me that's real. Trisha, congratulations. And Trisha's working hard on her mental health. You're asking me what about her mental health? She understands what she's struggling with, and she's getting active treatment, and she's transparent about it, and I admire that. So that's why I like my friend Trisha. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow. We have a big loaded up week. We've got Bethany Shondark in here, who's a commentator. Let me see how my prep is on her and how she talks about herself these days. homeschooling expert. She has a new book about John Wayne. Well, that's interesting. We can talk about his shortcomings as well. She was a latchkey kid whose mom died when she was 16 from complications of lupus, and dad committed suicide when she was 19. So, yeah, she had a lot of interesting life experiences. So we'll talk about homeschooling, and I know, Caleb, that's an area of interest for yours as well.
Yes, and hopefully my voice will be better tomorrow.
I'm sure. And we have
COVID tones of love.
Chad Goes Deep on Wednesday at 3:00, which is our buddies who are the guys that, they're...
What's the other guy's name? Chad and... JT.
And they have been on this stream a few times, and they go to city council meetings and complain that the government is not supporting their... what do they call it? Their rage? Their desire to rage? No, they have a different...
stoke.
Their stoke, the maximal stoke, is being limited by the government policies. So they're very funny. And then on Thursday,
they're coming in. They're going to be. We have to set up the other camera, Caleb.
Oh, are they coming in?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. And then on Thursday, we have a guy that I just saw commentating. I don't know quite what to make of him, but he's a radio host. He's a media analyst. And I heard him talking. I guess he's got a bunch of political views. I didn't realize that. But what I saw was him talking about streaming and the future of digital platforms. And I thought very interesting that this guy was thinking about that. And I thought, Caleb, you'd find him interesting as well. So we will get to him. And y'all, tomorrow again, there he is. It's all at 3:00 for more streaming shows. We'll look for you on the Restream, and also we'll look for you also in Clubhouse. Thank you for being here, and we will see you tomorrow, 3:00. Bethany Shondar. Has Chris recovered from this? Has he forgiven you guys? I mean, it was an awesome moment, I have to say.
Chris loves his job.
He looks changed when I walk around your house and he's here. He looks like it altered him.
He smiles more now, right?
No, he does not. No, he does not. He looks like he's thinking to himself, "You fuckers, I'm going to get back at you one way or another." Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources